What's your most incredible real life story that no one believes, even though it's 100% true? Story 1. So, back in high school, I was at a friend's house party. My girlfriend had a bit too much to drink and was becoming quite rowdy. While I was only tipsy, she was starting to get on my nerves. She couldn't stop talking about how worked up she was. We decided to head upstairs to a bedroom, and things started to get intense. She threw me onto the floor and went bare like Jim Carrey on Bruce Almighty before turning off the lights. She went down and said, "You're gonna love this." But honestly, it didn't feel too good at all. She was making all these noises like a savage, but there was just too much friction. I wasn't feeling it, and I was about to ask her to get off of me. Suddenly, she let out a noise that sounded like a combination of a deep cough and a hiccup. I was like, "Babe, are you all right?" She then had a sudden Hurricane Katrina-style levee breach moment, which was definitely not expected. We were in the middle of doing it from the back door, and she just lost control. So there I was, covered in an unexpected mess, a mix of Taco Bell and general chaos in my friend's little brother's room. I struggled to overcome the shock of the situation, thinking that someone really needed to clean this up as soon as possible. Fortunately, everyone else was downstairs. I used my undershirt to clean myself up and then went to the upstairs bathroom to search for cleaning supplies. I found some Resolve and Febreze in there, which I brought to the room. I did a thorough cleaning, mostly managing to remove the mess. The carpet was an unattractive grayish color, which actually made the task easier. I placed my undershirt and the shirt we used for scrubbing into a plastic bag I found in the bedroom. I removed the screen from the window and tossed it out into the backyard. The bedroom was clear, except for the putrid smell of whale blubber that was far out. I left the window open and sprayed almost the entire bottle of Febreze everywhere, like a hitman cleaner. My girlfriend had thrown up in the room, and I couldn't bear to stay in there any longer. I walked downstairs and told my friend, "Volcano bum, my girlfriend threw up in the room. Don't let anyone go in there tonight before it airs out." We walked outside and got in the car. I drove to the street next to his house and parked. I walked between houses to get to his backyard, hopped his fence, and retrieved the bag of deceit, sorrow, and teen anguish. My girlfriend did not apologize, which hurt my feelings. Dang, she didn't even say sorry? Cold, bro. Story 2. I was in Sao Paulo, Brazil on a business trip. The night before my flight, I wanted a drink, but the hotel lounge was closed for a private party. I didn't want to venture out by myself at that time of the night, so I started chatting with one of the security guards. A woman approached us and asked if there was a problem. I explained that I was hoping to get a drink but didn't want to impose. She started speaking in excellent English. I can speak enough Portuguese to get by, but I'm definitely not fluent, and explained that it was a post-wedding celebration. She was older than me, probably in her late 40s, but she was very attractive. She asked if I'd like to join her upstairs for a drink, and she led me to her room. We spent the next half hour exploring every available surface until she told me she had to return to the reception. I asked her why the hurry, and she confessed that she was the mother of the bride. I felt like I was in a MasterCard advert. Story 3. How I ended up finding my dog. I was on my way to the bus stop when I saw a friendly dog wandering around. He came up to me, and I gave him a few pats before continuing on my way. For some reason, he kept following me. Even though there were other people around, he stayed close behind me. Now, the bus stop is located on a busy street, and I was hoping to lose him by the time I got there, but no such luck. I wasn't sure what would happen if I got on the bus. Would he chase after it? Would he try to hop on? The stop where I planned to get off was also heavily trafficked. Neither option seemed ideal, so I did the only thing I could think of. I headed home. On the way, I called my dad and told him that a dog was following me. He laughed, thinking I was trying to find a way to skip school, but he went along with it, promising to drive us to the local animal shelter. Imagine his surprise when I arrived home with the dog in tow. So we drove to the animal shelter where we had to turn him in. A week or so later, we received a call saying that no one had claimed the dog or reported him missing. My dad had always wanted a dog, albeit a different breed, but seeing as this fellow had followed me home, he figured, I guess this is the one. And that, kids, is how I met my dog. This guy was lucky. Doesn't matter if no one believed him, at least he got a furry friend out of it. Story 4. When I was young, I was at a restaurant in Melbourne with my cousin. I noticed a young guy eating with his family, and I said to my cousin, "Hey, look, it's Harry Potter," because, well, he looked like Daniel Radcliffe. So my cousin replied, "That is Harry Potter?" And it was. He was in Australia filming a movie. A bit later, I went to the bathroom to take a leak. While I was at the urinal, Daniel came in and started using the urinal next to me. I looked over at him and we made eye contact. He said, "Nice wand," finished his business, washed his hands, and walked out. No one has ever believed me, and only my cousin can vouch for the fact that we saw him, but not for what he said in the bathroom to me. Story 5. My friends and I are hanging out in my apartment when my buddy, Asian Nate, we call him that because, well, he's Asian, but it's also relevant to this story, starts telling us about how he recently got something in his eye while he was knocking one out. Nate's a terrible storyteller. In the middle of Nate's story, my other buddy Jeremiah gets up to go to the bathroom. Asian Nate is sitting in a lazy boy recliner in the corner of the living room, and the bathroom is at the opposite end of the room down a short hallway. So the bathroom door is probably around 20 feet away from the recliner. Now, this is important, so pay attention. Nate rambles on for so long that Jeremiah has time to relieve himself, wash his hands, and return to the hallway to hear the end of the story. It seems that Jeremiah's hands were feeling a bit dry, so he grabbed the economy-sized bottle of Jergens lotion from our bathroom. Yeah, when 4 guys live in an apartment, a 32 fluid-ounce bottle of lotion is a wise investment, and stood in the hallway while applying said lotion to hear the end of Asian Nate's dirty story. Well, I guess Jeremiah moisturized his hands a little too much because just as Asian Nate is delivering the punchline to his story about something in the eye, Jeremiah lost his grip on the Jergens bottle. Now, the miracle of physics that it is then took place is kind of hard to describe. The bottle did a flawless 180-degree inversion landing, pumped down on the floor. As Asian Nate finally says the words, "and then I put something in my own eye," a stream of Jergens lotion is spewed out at near light speed and lands some 20 feet away, directly in Asian Nate's eye. If I live to be 100 years old, I will never see a more serendipitous series of events. It was magical. Holy crap, guys. So that was the most epic story reenactment I've ever heard. I swear, the timing? Perfect. Story 6. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was really into funny Wikipedia edits. I thought it would be funny to claim that kiwi fruit was once called hairy bush fruit, so I modified the Wikipedia page on kiwi fruit to say so. I copied and pasted some random Chinese characters from elsewhere in the article and put them in as the Chinese translation. Hairy bush fruit, Mao Mu Go. Since then, the claim has been repeated all over the place, and it currently returns 61,000 results on Google. It's even been printed in The Guardian, which means it's now a 100% verifiable fact and will likely never be removed from the offending article. This is a kind of scary implication. The Guardian journalist who wrote that article should have noted that Wikipedia was used as a reference, but they didn't. There could easily be other circular references like this where a journalist repeats something incorrect from Wikipedia and publishes it, which then means that the incorrect fact can now be referenced in the press. Story 7. I was working at a bar with a woman who had been married to a professional wrestler. One night, the British Bulldog Sid Vicious and Macho Man Randy Savage came in for beers and to say hello to her. They ended up hanging out all night and getting buzzed, and she told me that they were looking for some snow. I called my at the time and he dropped some off. I and another bartender were invited to drink with them after our shift. We ended up going in a limo with Sid and Macho Man, and we were all strung out on the way back to their hotel. On the way, we saw Mean Gene Okerlund getting busy with some 20-something girl. The best part of the night, and maybe of my life, was when we pulled up to a stoplight. Macho Man, who was incredibly hyped up at this point, as we all were, stuck half of his body out of the sunroof next to a group of people waiting to cross the street and screamed, "Snap into a Slim Jim!" He scared the crap out of about half of them, and then the cheers erupted. I still chuckle about it to this day. Story 8. On our way to visit a friend, my husband and I got lost on a highway in Pennsylvania. By sheer coincidence, my husband's friend drove past us in the opposite direction. We saw him and turned around to catch up to him. Finally, pulling over, we stood on the side of the road, a 2-lane highway, discussing the directions to our friend's house. Surrounding us were farms with corn and other various crops. And then, out of nowhere, a duck appeared on the other side of the road. He looked at us curiously as we talked. We watched him look both ways and waddle across the road to where we were standing. Cars honked at him as they tried to drive past. He reached my husband, pecked at his shoe once, and then promptly waddled back across the street, dodging cars traveling at highway speed. He made it back across the street and disappeared into the crops. He risked his life to peck my husband's shoe and then simply waddled out of our lives. That duck's crazy, man. I think they just saw Psyduck in real life. Hey, if my stories give you a good laugh and a good chuckle, then please do hit that like button and subscribe to my channel right now. It really does help us out. Thanks for watching. Story 9. I was driving back from a wedding in northern Wisconsin with my ex-girlfriend on a summer night in 2010. It was around 10 p.m., so the small highway was deserted and pretty peaceful. Then, as I emerged from a winding turn, I spotted a large, tan creature on the side of the road. It was too big to be a cat, and definitely not a dog. I tapped my girlfriend on the arm and said, Honey, did you see that?" "No, what was it?" she asked. "I think I just saw a mountain lion." She then chuckled. "Honey, you're just tired. There aren't any mountain lions up here." I kept my eye on the rearview mirror, but it was too dark to see anything. I knew what I had seen, but she and her family didn't believe me. A few years later, reports of more sightings started coming in, which made me even more confident that it was a mountain lion. Story 10. I received a call from a police officer informing me that if I did not pay some outstanding fines within a week, he would arrest me. The total was $267.63. It was about 2 weeks before Christmas, so I was pretty stressed out about it. The very next day, I received a check in the mail for $267.63 for overpaid child support throughout the year. It was the most bizarre and inexplicable thing that has ever happened to me. Story 11. I used to build lasers for the US and Spanish Army for a minimum wage, even though I had no qualifications. I might have built some of them incorrectly, which resulted in an $800 crystal breaking into 6 pieces and 24 completed models requiring reassembly. Story 12. When I was in elementary school, my brother and I were walking home from school after a heavy downpour. He started reaching into all the puddles and I asked him what he was doing. He said, "Sometimes there's money in these." A few puddles later, he pulled out a $20 bill. Now, I'm not sure if he had swiped it from somewhere else and planted it, or if it was true. Either way, I now check puddles for treasures whenever I'm alone. Story 13. I was at a minor league game when I was in 2nd grade, and I asked Dion Sanders for a hello. That was it. He waved me off, and somehow the words, "What a diva," came out of my mouth. The look on his face was priceless. Fast forward, and he's ending his career with Dallas. I'm waiting for a flight out, and he has a huge entourage holding up the line. So I yell, "What diva is holding up the damn line?" His entourage parts, and he looks at me with a quizzical look on his face. Then a hint of recognition hits him, and he goes back to talking to the ticket lady. Story 14. I was walking home from high school one day when a car pulled up behind me. Inside were 4 guys in balaclavas and a Glock pointed out the window. The weapon clicked. I panicked and ran over a hedge, sprinting away as fast as I could. I heard one of the guys yelling, "Wait, we're not going to hurt you." Since so many people are asking, I can't tell you that it was not likely a prank. These were genuine goons, either the IRA or the UVF, probably the IRA. I ran as fast as I could and hid in the dark for a while until I was super sure the danger had passed. Then I went home. There's not much else to say. Story 15. When I was little, my younger brother and I often stayed with babysitters during the day. One babysitter we had for a few months was particularly strict and demanding. As soon as we got to her house, I would hang our coats on the coat hangers strategically placed right before the basement stairs. My brother was too little to reach the coat hanger, so I would have to hang his for him. So one day, my brother got a stubborn streak and insisted on hanging his own coat. I was nervous, but I let him try anyway. He picked the hanger closest to the top of the basement stairs and stood on his tippy toes, struggling to reach it. Suddenly, he lost his balance and fell down the stairs. The babysitter heard him crying and came running. She immediately accused me of pushing my brother down the stairs. She told my mom about it later, and to this day, no one believes me that I didn't do it. I would never hurt my little brother. That babysitter is so mean, accusing a kid of hurting his brother without any evidence. Sheesh. Story 16. Back when I was a teenager, I was playing Counter-Strike 1.6 on the map WILDEST. As a CT, I was rushing tunnels when a flash came out from the tunnel, blinding me completely. I continued rushing into the tunnel, spraying my weapon, and somehow managed to eliminate all 8 people on the enemy team, ending the round while completely blind. It was a combination of knowing the map, knowing my movement, knowing the cult, and pure dumb luck. I played the game a lot and was pretty good, but this was one of my most impressive plays. Story 17. My friend got a girl pregnant when they were both very young. They met at the beach in Panama City, Florida. She was from a wealthy family in Ohio, and he was from a working class family in Georgia. My friend never told anyone about the pregnancy except for me. He's now 28, and he has a teenage son that only I know about. The girl's family was so rich that they were able to cover up the pregnancy. She never told anyone who the father was, but she would sometimes fly down to Georgia to visit him in secret. I didn't believe it until I saw pictures of his son. His son has never met him either, and I don't think he knows he even exists. I've often daydreamed about what would happen if my friend died. I would have to tell his parents that he had a son and that they had been grandparents for 15 years without even knowing it. It would be a shock to everyone involved. Story 18. When I was a child, I was riding bikes with my mom and hit a gravel patch, causing me to fall. I don't remember why I wasn't wearing a helmet, but I hit my head on a rock and was knocked unconscious. I saw and heard two elderly women walking down the street. They approached me and stood by my side for a short while. When I opened my eyes, my mom was rushing out of a neighbor's house after calling an ambulance. The elderly woman had vanished. 10 people came out to help me, but none of them had seen the elderly women. Story 19. When I was in elementary school, I went to a big children's fishing festival. All the kids in attendance put their names in hats, and then they were drawn out to determine which guide they would be paired with in groups of 2 to 3 per guide. Now, to my surprise, my name was drawn first, so my brother and I got to go with the number 1 guide there, who happened to be a professional fisherman. The guy was the only guide to come with his own cameraman who tagged along with us. Apparently, this guy, who was also very nice and I had a great time with, was a somewhat famous fishing video maker, and my brother and I were filmed every time we reeled in a fish. The guy told us we might make it into one of his videos or even onto a fishing TV show, but he didn't know for sure. One Sunday morning before church, I was sitting there watching ESPN when, no kidding, I saw myself and my little brother catching a huge walleye. Of course, my parents were getting ready and my brother was in the shower, so no one else saw it, but it was crazy. Now, this was before DVR or anything, and I had no idea it was coming, so I couldn't set up a recording. But I was on ESPN for like 30 seconds. That was probably the pinnacle of my fame right there. Story 20. When I was a child, my dad and I were throwing the Nerf Whistler football in the yard. He had a pretty strong arm back then, so when we were done throwing it around, he decided he wanted to try to hit the back of his truck from about 30 yards away. Naturally, I started to run inside, but he accidentally hit me in the side of the face with the football so hard that it left a permanent dimple. Luckily for me, it hit me right in the jaw where normal dimples usually are. That's probably why people don't believe me, but it did happen. Hearing that high-pitched whistle coming straight for my face was absolutely terrifying. Ouch, I'm sure that hurt, but at least he's got a cute dimple from it now. Story 21. I believe I was in 7th grade at the time, so this was about 10 years ago. I was out fishing from the dock of my parents' beach house. As I cast my line into the air, a seagull happened to be flying by, and the hook ended up catching the bird. I caught a seagull with my fishing rod, of all things. Now, I tried to reel the seagull in to remove the hook from its mouth, but the bird was having none of it. It felt like I was trying to fly a kite with a seagull attached until I eventually decided to cut the fishing line. Story 22. As a child, I remember standing on the apartment balcony and watching kangaroos in the distance. My mother used to make homemade clay for me to play with using flour and some other kitchen ingredients. I didn't have a bed, I slept in a mostly empty room with a few toys, mostly cars and one of those Hot Wheels tracks that go around a loop. I've never been outside the United States. My mother claims she's never made clay for me or even knows how to, and that I've always had a bed. I'm 100% sure I'm not adopted, but those memories are there. Multiple memories of it, actually. Not like some kind of weird, out of ordinary kind of memory. More like those were general kind of memories for childhood. No way that's true. I wonder if this guy's just so hung up on dark cartoons or if he's trapped in an infinite Tsukuyomi. Either way, it's pretty weird. Hey, if you reach the end, prepare to be blown away by what science experiment would you try if money and ethics are not an issue. Story 3 is unbelievable. Don't miss it. Thank you for watching this one, and I'll catch you at the next video.